Let the record show all commissioners are present.
Thank you. If you're able, if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Fisher, do we have any special presentations or proclamations?
There are no special presentations this evening.
Thank you. Moving on to oral communications. Do we have any oral communications?
And we do not have any oral communications.
Thank you. And changes to agenda?
And there are no changes to the posted agenda.
All right, item number 7, approval of minutes for the August 20th regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for that meeting?
I move.
Commissioner Quinn moved, and then Vice Chair Hansen second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, the minutes are approved.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Also, if you haven't done so already, if the commissioners and audience would please silence your cell phones during the course of the meeting, that would be much appreciated. Our first action item today is to hear regarding the long-awaited Encinitas Community Park Amenities Assessment. That will be a presentation presented by staff. Manager Norgard.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here this evening to provide an update on the Encinitas Community Park Amenities Assessment. For a little background, Encinitas Community Park is a 44-acre park located at 425 Santa Fe Drive. A final EIR, Environmental Impact Report, was prepared for the Hall Property Community Park project pursuant to the California Environmental Equality Act, or CEQA, and officially adopted by City Council on October 22, 2008. The park was completed and opened in January of 2015. ECP includes a very popular playground, passive walking trails, sports fields, a world-class skate park, and perhaps the nicest dog park in the region. The approved master plan, shown here, was used for the EIR and major use permit for the park. Thanks, Nate. When ECP opened in 2015, the park did not include 2 of the major amenities included in the major use permit and shown in the approved master plan. The teen center in the upper left or northwest corner of the park and the aquatic center in the upper right or northeast corner of the park. After the park opened, staff and the Parks and Recreation Commission received feedback from the community requesting sand volleyball and other amenities added to ECP. Beginning in fiscal year 2019-2020, the Park and Recreation Commission work plan included public outreach to gauge interest for adding sand volleyball courts to ECP. The commission met with sand volleyball players, stakeholders, and vendors. On May 12, 2020, the commission made a recommendation to add sand volleyball courts at city facilities, including ECP. Similarly, the fiscal year 21-22 commission work plan also included studying pickleball use at city facilities and made a recommendation for court sharing, as there are no dedicated city-owned pickleball courts. At the June 9, 2021 special City Council meeting, City Council directed staff to investigate the feasibility of adding new amenities at ECP, including sand volleyball courts and dedicated pickleball courts. Council directed $30,000 in capital funding for the fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement budget. Staff prepared a request for quotes to hire a consultant to analyze the feasibility of amending the EIR and the major use permit to add sand volleyball and pickleball. Subsequently, the firm RRM was hired to lead the feasibility of the study. RRM Design Group reviewed the previously certified EIR and major use permit, performed site analysis, and developed high-level concepts to analyze the feasibility of adding sand volleyball and pickleball courts at ECP. RRM Design Group also performed a desktop analysis of potential impact areas including traffic, noise, air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, and parking. The concept diagrams that were considered included 3 options for analysis, which we will review in the following slides. For orientation, this slide shows the current condition of the northwest corner, identified in the master plan as the teen center. The area is mostly used as a passive area with picnic tables and an open lawn. This slide shows the current condition of the northeast corner, identified in the master plan as the aquatic center. The area is used to host the dog days of summer, various commercial use permits including dog training, yoga classes, and boot camps. The first option that was analyzed included 2 sand volleyball courts on the northwest corner of the site where the previously planned teen center was shown on the master plan. The illustration included opportunities for spectator seating, picnic tables, and shade. Retaining walls and steps would be needed to accommodate the sloped grade in this area. Option 2 included up to 2 sand volleyball courts on the northwest corner of the site and 12 pickleball courts in the northeast corner of the site where the aquatic center was previously shown. This also includes opportunities for spectator seating, picnic tables, shade, a concession area, and restrooms. Option 3 combined them onto one site for 4 volleyball courts and 8 pickleball courts on the northeast corner with similarly mentioned amenities. In summary, based on the analysis that RRM Design Group performed, they've determined that amending the major use permit and preparing an addendum to the EIR for additional recreational amenities proposed for ECP are feasible. The concept diagrams and amenities that were analyzed are high level. If this project were to move forward, concepts would progress based on public input, further analysis, technical studies, and detailed design. A comprehensive, accurate, and objective project-level EIR addendum should be prepared for any new amenities that fully complies with CEQA and the guidelines. In order to amend the major use permit and prepare an addendum to the EIR, a consultant will be required to perform the necessary analysis, lead the planning, design, outreach, design, development, and permitting. Costs for outreach and plans are estimated at $350,000 to $500,000, and this includes all the technical analysis, outreach, designs, construction documents, and building permits. Additionally, high-level costs for implementation of the features range from $500,000 for option 1, which is the 2 sand volleyball courts, to approximately $3 million for options 2 and 3. That concludes my report, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Manager Norgard. I appreciate that. Mr. Fisher, are there any public speakers that wish to address this agenda item?
There are no public speakers for this item.
Thank you. As the function of our commission to be a sounding board and a place where the city council can turn to provide feedback, advice, consideration for things, I'd like to open this particular project up for discussion among the commission panel to basically express any positives or negatives that they may feel regarding the various options. City council members may review our commission meeting tonight looking for some insights. It would have been nice to have some public speakers on this. I'm sure there will likely be some during city council. But I would like to get the commission to provide some consideration on the various options. And since I kind of threw that out at you, I'll go ahead and start so you can kind of think about anything that you might feel one way or another on the various options. And Nate, are you in control of the slides?
I can control them.
Okay, fantastic. Would you please go to option number 3, please? So I personally favor this particular option. The reason that I like this option is that we have 4 sand volleyball courts. At the beginning of this whole process was actually to accommodate the sand volleyball players. They had a need that was directed at us many, many years ago, and I would prefer to see 4 volleyball courts rather than just 2. Now, keep in mind, too, that these are some preliminary drawings and everything can change, but I would just like to provide some additional feedback with regards to what we've seen so far at this point. I also like the idea that there would be 4 volleyball courts so that volleyball players could hold tournaments where they would have 4 courts to be able to play on versus just 2. 2 just seems very recreational. 4, I think you get to the point where you could have a small tournament. I also like that the sports fields are positioned away from any residences. So if you notice the skate park is directly to the west of there, or to the left in the diagram. It is closer toward where in option 3, the sport fields are located at now. They butt up against the shopping center there, and then also I-5. So from a noise level, I like the idea that it's more in the center of the park and be less disruptive for nearby neighbors. I also like that the parking wraps around in that area so that those that wish to play volleyball or pickleball could easily access that area using those parking lots, freeing up the parking lot in the bottom left corner of option 3 for people that would like to go to the dog park or to the playground. So I think it would better distribute the parking needs by having them over on that side. I also like the option of keeping that area that was originally dedicated for the teen building as an available space for either existing as is or for potential amenity in the future. One future amenity that I would be a proponent for would be to consider putting a fitness court or adult fitness equipment in that area. That area, again, would, if we did have that type of amenity in that section, would be a less noisy activity in that area that, again, would be less impactful on the nearby residents. I would like to open it up to any other commissioners at this point to go ahead and provide some feedback either on any of the options. At this point.
Go. My opinion is we go for all the bang for the buck if we're doing this. It's going to take a long time. Let's get it right. I'm all for the 12 pickleball courts and the 2 sand courts and possibly 2 sand courts back in the corner there. The discussed area between the dog park and the skate park.
Manager Norgard, could you go to option 2?
Yeah, it's option 2 with a little ad. Oh, I lost 2. I'm all for more pickleball.
So, and again, nothing is definite here. This is the very, very beginning of the process. We'll be obviously seeking a lot of public input on this. We're not going to be making any recommendations necessarily to City Council. If you look at the recommended action in the agenda item, it's to receive the presentation. So at this point, my thoughts are let's just share some ideas and get some eyes on it.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with Commissioner Hanson on, I think we're underserving the community on pickleball. It seems to be an issue throughout the city. I don't know if there is a need as much for the sand volleyball in this community. I've haven't recognized that. So we're going to lose, we'll go from 12 down to 8 on the pickleball courts. And I think Commissioner Hanson, I think you just mentioned, have 2 sand volleyball courts next to the pickleball, and then another 2 sand volleyball courts over in that green area, or no? Am I mistaken?
Well, that's what I suggested, but I was wrong.
Okay.
And Manager Norgard, with regards to events, special events that happen there, like Cardiff Dog Days of Summer, I know they use that big area that is not currently under consideration for vendor booth setup, for their stage, et cetera. The area where they currently have the pickleball or the pickleball and volleyball courts, that area, at least, well, in this option 2 that we're looking at is just pickleball, but that area is used for miscellaneous other things as well. But that area could, or those particular things might be able to be moved somewhere else within the park to still accommodate that need.
Yeah, I think most of our commercial use could be shifted throughout the park. We do host dog days where, a portion of dog days where the pickleball is shown in this diagram. You know, it's nice because we do have shade there for some of the trees. The other commercial use permits that we have there are some dog training and yoga and boot camps and things like that. Those are small enough that we can accommodate in other areas in the park.
I think there was a request to speak. Go ahead.
I concur on the option 3 for all the reasons that has been previously stated here. I suppose like another question I have is the idea of a teen center has come and gone in that Northeast. That's something from years past that's not on the table in any way. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. So basically, the idea is that the city council would direct that the master plan be changed from having an area designated in the park for a teen center as well as an area in the park designated for an aquatic center. And it's also my understanding that even if we had the multiple millions of dollars to put towards an aquatic center, the actual land area that's available is somewhat less than what we would really need to provide that type of aquatic center. So the idea here is, yes, that we would basically be saying no more teen center, no more aquatic center, let's replace it with sports courts. Manager Norgard, did you want to address something else to that? Okay.
Then additionally, the other reason I would be a fan of option 3 is that it's furthest away from the homes, and pickleball can be really loud. So there might be coming up the, public comment, some people that might have some opinions about having 12 courts versus 8 here, and I feel like there's at least room to move of, whether we go with 4, ultimately sand volleyball courts versus more pickleball courts. And then the other question, I guess, after our tour of the park and kind of understanding more about some limitations to it is like lighting. So that would be something I think would be important to consider for all the investment. I think both of those sports people might want to do after work, and in the wintertime, having lighting might be something that would be required in order to make best use of it. But I'm sure we'll get into that in the future.
Manager Norgard, are we restricted from having night lighting in ECP?
We are. That was a condition in the EIR and a pretty consistent topic of public comment throughout the development of the master plan and the EIR.
So in that case, that would be a limiting factor with regards to evening play or late afternoon play in the winter. I would also say, too, that as we consider what's involved in construction, I like the idea that there's only one construction site. If we were to move forward with option 3, where all the sports courts would end up being in one location rather than spreading it across the park and creating additional closures or maybe affecting the skate park more than we really would want to. So I think that's another benefit for option 3. And Commissioner Evers, please.
Thank you, Chair. I had a similar question as my fellow commissioner about the teen center and the feedback from the community. Was there any other community feedback at this time about other interests or wanting the teen center? Did you guys recall?
We haven't heard a lot of interest in the teen center, and looking at our programming, we believe that we can handle a lot of additional teen programming at the community center and potentially at Pacific View as well.
When we're comparing these activities, having sports courts, versus the activities that would be involved in having an aquatic center and having a teen center, they're considering things like what's comparable. So as you can imagine, an aquatic center can be quite loud with all the children or the swimming or the splashing about. So when you think of noise, we're looking at things like noise and parking, emissions. So we're comparing in this report, how do those original purposes for the master plan compare to the new proposed? And what the report is suggesting is that it would be less of an impact. So that's why the consultant suggested that we could move forward with this and still be within our EIR. Any other feedback or questions or thoughts on this at this point? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I kind of am in between the two. I do think maybe the feedback from the volleyball courts, sand volleyball, might be a bit old. I would like to see maybe updated interest. I also think sand volleyball would be more interesting at the beach. I don't know how many sand volleyball players would be interested in going to ECP for that, but I think more, maybe more feedback from the residents on that one. Yeah, I think that's all. Thanks.
I think that's great input. Vice Chair Hansen and I have been on the commission a little longer. We did field the original interest in having more sand volleyball courts because of our limited sand volleyball courts actually on the beach. And it was an interesting discussion because we learned a lot about sand volleyball. You can't just take any sand and put in there. I mean, it's got to be a very specific sand. So it is something that at the time there was a lot of interest. As in anything city related, everything takes a bit of time. There obviously can be changes with regards to interest and community involvement, but I think it would be a good opportunity to reach out to the sand volleyball community and just start to get a pulse as to how they feel they're currently served and whether they feel like they need additional courts. So all of our sand volleyball currently is located at Moonlight Beach. And do we have any at any other park? We have it in Glen Park.
And Leucadia Oaks?
Okay. And is that one court each?
Yes.
Okay. So we do have precedent in the sense that we do have one court each in 2 different parks where we do have sand volleyball. So if that is the end of our commenting, which I think that might be the case. You have one more, please.
Well, I guess that I agree with you in saying what is the need and is the beach the place for beach volleyball? And I guess I just don't have a good feel for it because we had the skateboarding folks here a couple of weeks ago. I had no idea that there was such a community. It's the size of it. We know that there's a need for pickleball. We see people here all the time, but is that growth plateauing, or do we still have an insatiable need for courts? I guess this is really what we'd want to figure out, the community need, and I guess I don't have a good feeling for that. And I wonder how we'd get something quantifiable to figure that out.
Chair Ritter, I can chime in here.
Please.
I think it's important to recognize the work that prior commissions have done, and the Parks and Recreation Commission studied this for over 3 years. We do have a former commissioner here who's very involved in that, and thank you very much, Marla, for coming. And in fact, the funding for this study was born directly out of the work that the commission did to study sand volleyball, and was originally brought forward as a study to assess whether we could add sand volleyball, and the city council added pickleball to that assessment at that time. So because the sand volleyball players are not here, I think is not indicative of their level of desire for more carts. And if this project were to move forward into public engagement, I think it's likely that we would see quite a few of them. I have talked to quite a few of the major players in town down at Moonlight, and I know that they are still actively wanting additional courts, and they speak pretty frequently about where they have to go to play when Moonlight's full. So in as much as pickleball is the #1 growing sport in America, it's important to remember the work that got us this far.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Manager Norgard, for that clarification, and I think it's important to circle back and remember that. Any other comments on this particular issue? Well, I thank the Commission for sharing their viewpoints. I'm sure the City Council will certainly appreciate our thoughtfulness on it. And at this point, let's go ahead and move on to the next item. It's the city property at 634 Quail Gardens Drive. Again, this is another City Council initiated directive. And in particular, I just want to outline exactly what the recommended action is. It's to consider the creation and naming of a park at the city's property on Quails Garden Drive based upon the gift being offered. So at this point, we're basically considering whether we should create a park, and then also whether we could name it based upon a financial gift being offered. Manager Norgard, would you like to make a presentation?
Yeah, happy Tuesday. And don't have a presentation up on the board for this. This is the actions if you've followed along with City Council.
Excuse me for just one moment, just for clarification for the people in the room, would you just announce who you are and your title, please?
Definitely, thank you. Like I said, happy Tuesday, Dave Knopp, Director of Park Recreation and Cultural Arts, part of this team. And happy to be here and sharing information with you tonight.
Thank you.
So this was a direction from City Council. There is a donation offered from Encinitas resident Glenn Johnson for $100,000 toward a park at 634 Quail Gardens Drive. He sent that offer, sent that in a written document, and then attended City Council on August 28th. This is property that's been looked at for park space. It's been looked at for other things over the years. Housing is one of the things being discussed for this area. That's not the question for tonight. The council had asked that the Park and Recreation Commission look at this land, one, as if there was to be a park here, what are the thoughts about naming of a park after Sally Johnson, Mr. Johnson's wife, who's passed away? in honor of the $100,000 donation, and two, the idea of there being a park at this location in Encinitas and serving the community of Encinitas as a park space. We agree? Okay, team effort. Thank you very much. So that's my presentation. Gladly answer any questions, though.
All right, fantastic. And then at this time, are there any guest speakers?
Yes, so we have 5 speaker slips. So we'll start with Glenn Johnson.
Commissioners and staff and the public, my name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a resident of Kristen Court, just off of Quail Gardens Drive. I'm here to explain my offer and answer any questions that you might have. The park site was acquired as a future public park. It's been called L7 because it was thought that it would be used in a housing element. As population grows, the need for parks and open spaces also increases, and I think we're deficient on the number of parks that our general plan would require. It's a really bad precedent when parkland is cannibalized. In a few years, another park could be gobbled up for housing. Think about this. Think about this. My neighborhood is now taking the brunt of the housing element. I live within a few short blocks of 3 of these sites, and there's another one 3/4 of a mile up the street. We need this park as the new residents come in, and we don't really need any new development in this area. I kind of envision a neighborhood park, quiet. It's in a valley that sound echoes. It's got some hydrological problems, which for trees, having a place to put your roots down is good, but for houses, not so much. I'm open to any suggestions for the park. I'm thinking a quiet park, but there might be space for some swings or something. I'm thinking some tables and benches and maybe a DG path through it, and leaving a lot of the space rough so that we can have birds in the trees and quail on the ground and the kind of food that they like. There is a little wet area on this, and probably there are gnats in it and California gnat catchers like that kind of thing. So I'm making this offer of $100,000 for naming rights to a public park based on the urge to help the neighborhood that I love, and in memory of my wife who passed away about 19 months ago. Are there any questions?
Well, first of all, on behalf of the commission and our department, I just wanted to thank you for presenting your generous offer. It's wonderful where the community can come together, step up, help the city, perhaps where funding isn't available. So certainly appreciate your offer. Are there any questions from the commission at this point? I do have a couple questions for you, Mr. Johnson. So the park as we look at the lot, Quail Gardens Road actually, or drive, separates it about maybe 1/3 on one side, 2/3 on the other. In the original agreement, when the city went to purchase or consider purchasing the park, staff at that time had recommended that a park only be developed on one side of the road, just because they didn't want to encourage people to go back and forth across a busy road. With that in mind, do you see, or as you consider your donation and any restrictions that you would place on it, does both sides of the street need to be developed as a park for your gift?
No, I would think the east side, which is in the bottom of the valley, is more suitable for a park. The little triangular portion on the west side, next to the leash tag property, might be open to a trail through the leash tag property. They've expressed some interest in that. But, you know, we don't know what this ends up in. And of course, since there's no parking on Quail Gardens Drive, the park will have to have some parking spaces.
So if by chance, and we're just throwing out ideas here, if by chance the city decides that they would love to do a park on one side of the street, and maybe they might want to do affordable housing or something different on the other side of the street, would you still be interested in donating at that point?
Certainly. What I'm interested in is having, for the community, a park which can be kind of rustic, because I think we've displaced owls and things. I've had a hawk in my backyard that swooped down and ate a rat, but I didn't know the rat was there.
Wow.
We have hawks, we have owls, and I've seen them. We have other wildlife, and these are all God's creatures, even the skunks.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and we can never have enough parks.
But I think a good portion of the park would be best served as a quiet park, because this is a neighborhood with houses around it, and sound does echo. So I don't think it would be suitable, for instance, for pickleball.
Would you be interested in any active use? I think you mentioned that you might be fine with swings. Would a children's playground be appropriate in your mind?
Yes, and a lot of the nearby homes do have children who would benefit from having a park in their area instead of being driven to the community park. I myself have walked around the community park, and I enjoy it. And if we put in our neighborhood park a trail roughly around the park, that would encourage exercise as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. As a question to staff, could you share with us, based upon, you know, as I kind of look at our Parks and Recreation guide, there, Manager Hammer, I'll go ahead and do a little ad for you. If you look inside, there is a facility name, and as I kind of breeze through there, looking at the 24 different parks, I don't really see that any of them seem to be ones that have been named from a financial donation, just as a precedent. So this would likely be something that we would be doing as a first time ever in Encinitas.
Yeah, if you leave out the Maggie Houlihan Dog Park, yes.
And that was actually decided by City Council based upon her contribution to the community and not an actual financial contribution by her. But yes, there are a couple other ones like Leo Mullins, for instance, who was a coach that was honored by having a park named after him. In Scotts Valley? Thank
Chair
you.
Ritter.
We really need to make sure, too, that we direct the questions back and forth when you're available for speaking. Was that your point?
Yeah, just to
Mr. Lambert?
clarify, as you come up for public comment, we can address that, but that's Scott Valley Park, and it has not been renamed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I would like to add that I've been approached by a number of residents, both of my local community and other parts of Encinitas, with offers to contribute. So the $100,000 is clearly that's not enough to build a manicured park.
Absolutely.
But that is enough to put in some trees, benches, and a trail, and with the other donations, other amenities will follow.
If by chance, and again, we're just playing what-if scenarios, if by chance the city decides that we're not quite ready to do naming of parks, would you consider naming an amenity in the park that would be near your home after? I would say what I'm getting at is normally what we do for memorial type situations is park benches is a beautiful example for that. So would you consider something as a larger amenity, for instance, rather than naming the park after your wife?
I don't know. That's an open-ended question. But I would consider if my donation is not accepted, maybe I'll take a round-the-world cruise.
All right, fantastic. Are there any other questions for Mr. Johnson? Well, go ahead. Commissioner
I'd just
Flynn.
like to make a comment about Quiet Park. I share your desire for a quiet park. Across the street from there, or right near there, is Las Verdes, which has children's playground equipment and stuff. So if then people wanted to take their kids to the playground, they didn't have to drive all the way down to the community park. There's a playground right there. I have a question, and I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I'm going to throw it out here. It's a very generous donation, as our chairman had mentioned. What would happen, you said there's other people that want to donate. What would happen if somebody wanted to donate more than $100,000? Would that give them, will we fall into a bidding war as to who can name the park? I know it's just a wild, open-ended question. I just wanted to throw it out there, just as a comment, not looking for an answer on that.
It does open up a lot of questions with regards to the city making decision with regards to naming rights. Did you have a question?
I got a quick comment.
Sure.
I watched the video of the town hall meeting, that the city council meeting. I thought that was the most brilliant government, work that I've seen in a long time. The young man who donated his golf ball money was actually a great. I was proud to be in this community when I watched this. So I just wanted to thank you for stepping up in the community and making things happen. It was really a great example. Thank you.
Yes, and I do suspect that if we passed the hat around, it would be full of $20 bills and $100 bills.
Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
I appreciate your time. Can we have our next speaker, please?
Our next speaker is Stephen Gerlow.
Don't start my timer yet. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Stephen Gherkin. Sorry you can't read my horrible writing there. I'm an Encinitas resident, and I came here to support Glenn's and this suggestion before this commission. I want to thank the commission for considering the gift from Encinitas resident Glenn Johnson to name the Quail Gardens Park on Quail Gardens Drive. If we look at the history of Encinitas, major contributions by philanthropic organizations such as the Ecke Family Foundation, the Leech Tog Foundation, and many others have helped make Encinitas the special city and location that it is today. And now we have the opportunity to consider and embrace the generosity of individual citizens. And And I look forward to the discussion. It'll be technical, socially based, that was evoked by Glenn's generous offer. I've known Glenn for more than 22 years. I'm his neighbor. And I know that his generosity stems from the love of his deceased wife and of their combined love for Encinitas. I support the matter of accepting the donations for naming rights to the park at 634 Quail Gardens Drive. And I would also ask that you consider the following matters in your discussions. First, what were the activities and findings of Roy Sapow, the interim Parks and Rec Director, in response to the receipt of the notice of availability of surplus land at 634 Quail Gardens from the city of Encinitas? Because they didn't accept that land as park. And so I think we should know that history and feed that into our discussions. Please provide an analysis of why this land was not claimed by Encinitas Parks and Rec when it was declared surplus. I'm curious, and hope you know this, but you'll discuss it, is how does the city stand on its open space and park lands amounts and distributions with respect to the city's general plan for providing park space and open space? And something for you to think about in planning, which is what planning is supposed to do, is if a community of 4,000 people was going to be built in Encinitas, what would those numbers look like for a park requirement? And are there any regulations or guiding principles that might govern whether new park space should be developed? Because there are 1,200 new homes coming in within the half a mile either direction of this park site, 4,000 new residents coming to Encinitas. And so are we meeting our general plan obligations? That's a question I hope that you will consider in your discussions. So please support this land use as a park. Thank you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for me. Thank you.
Good to see you, Steve. I've got one question.
Yes.
Good to see you. I received a call about an hour before the meeting from someone from the community requesting this be on the agenda for the next meeting because of a lack of notice or lack of awareness. I want to get your input on that. Is there enough people or they get enough word in here? Or do you
Yes,
think?
you know, I actually am the head of an organization called the Encinitas Citizens for Responsible Development, and we have 300-400 members. We, the city did give us due notice and posted this through the legal 4 or 5 days. I didn't catch it. I got a call from Glenn today, said, "Hey, Steve, are you going to go?" And I'm like, "Go where?" So I know for a fact that if you want me to have several hundred people turn up and talk about this as a park, as public use, I could drive that kind of public involvement to this commission's meeting. So the answer is yes. There's a lot of people that would like to have input and the opportunity given ample time to plan. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Durkin.
You're welcome.
Just for clarification too, and in line with Mr. Gherkin's comment, the meeting was posted on the website on last Thursday, so there certainly was plenty of notice given, and everything was according to the Brown Act, so notice was provided, just didn't happen to get disseminated to everyone that might want to know. So for our next speaker, who do we have?
Our next speaker is Maria Casales-Sardans.
Hi, everyone. Just so you know as well, tonight, 6 o'clock right now is the mayor debate. So I think a lot of people also had to kind of choose, right, where they were going to go. So I think that was another big conflict. I didn't hear about it till a couple hours ago, but I wanted to be here to support Glenn. So here to support Glenn, to name this park after his late wife, Sally. If I'm not mistaken, some of you guys were here when I presented this information to the city council a couple months ago, but I'm going to share it with everyone here. So City of Encinitas is very deficient when it comes to parkland based on the metrics by the National Parks and Recreation Association. The 2024 National Parks and Recreation Association metrics recommends basically 2,386 residents per park and 10.6 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. So City of Encinitas has 60,841 residents based on 2023 census data. I don't know what it is now. And based on the website, 552 acres of parkland across 20 parks. So based on the metrics, we should have roughly 25 plus parks compared to our 20, as well as 645 acres of parkland compared to our 152. So we're at a 500 acre deficit for parkland. Crazy. So we need this park. I mean, this is only like 12 acres. So it's not going to make up the deficit, but please don't take this away from us. It was really unfortunate when our city council voted to designate this surplus land. It is not surplus land. We are deficit in parkland. So yes, I wish it would have been claimed. Just for the record, little Oliver Platt, he has raised over $2,000 now, and he's a stud. He is working hard. He is there all the time trying to sell brownies, clean up the golf balls, and repurpose them. So he's working hard for the city as well. As far as the development, west side, definitely the park, east side park, west side parking lot. We definitely need a parking lot. You put a stop sign there to make it safe for people, obviously, to cross. Right now, Fox Point Farms is using the public part of Paseo, the city-owned part of Paseo de la Verdes, for their Fox Point Farms, like, valet parking. So they're making money, right, on city roads, which I'm pretty sure is not legal. So why don't you put a parking lot there? Then we as a city, maybe you guys can do paid parking, make a little more revenue for the city, since we are so woefully deficient with revenue as well, right? Most of our money comes from tax dollars. So let's also try to find a way to use this parking lot to make some revenues for the city. Maybe during certain hours, like don't charge like for people to go use the park, but then maybe like in the evenings when people from Fox Point Farms wants to use that for their parking, charge, right? Make some money. Let's think outside the box here. I'm trying to get more in. Wildlife, we definitely need, oh my gosh, let me tell you. Coyotes need somewhere to go. My neighborhood is like the Hunger Games for coyotes. Today, 12:15, coyote, literally, my husband's taking the dog out. Coyote runs right through our green belt, okay, up the neighborhood. Yesterday, on camera, on someone's house camera, coyote went in the middle of the street, went poo in the middle of the street. They don't have anywhere to go. Please give them parkland to run around at night. They need
Thank you
somewhere.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. And our next speaker, Mr. Fisher.
Our next speaker, if she's here, is Elena Thompson.
She's next door at the affordable housing task force. She's in the task force, and they're really effective, but she said she can't.
Okay, thank you.
And then our last speaker would be Dick Stern.
And he's over there, too. Dick is also over there.
Okay, and that concludes public speakers.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Could staff maybe just ballpark figure for us, and I know can be a large range, but based upon the property that we're looking at, what are we looking at with regards to cost to convert the land that the way it currently is, if you consider the various permitting and permissions that we would need to actually turn it into a park, and then also just to, let's say, make it a passive park. Any ballpark number you might be able to share on that?
I'll answer that a little more broadly. Without respect to the specific parcel, I think that you'd be looking at several $100,000 in planning and environmental analysis and design. And passive parks throughout the county range anywhere from $500,000 an acre to $1 million an acre if they're more developed. And that can depend on several factors, including environmental factors, if mitigation is required, and what the condition of the land is. I have not studied this particular parcel for any of those needs, and is somewhat outside the scope of what council has asked of us. So that's just a more general and broad answer, kind of industry-wide in the county.
And just as a reference, the acreage for the two combined is 9.4 acres. Thank you for that information. Certainly.
So it's, like you said, it's about a 9-acre parcel. 6 acres is on the west side. 1.3 acres is taken by the easement, Quail Gardens Drive, the road and sidewalks and curb and gutter. And then the remaining 2 point some odd acres are on the west side.
Thank you.
The parcel that we're talking about is about 6 acres
Okay.
on the east side.
And I just wanted to, again, considering our commission as an advisory board for the city council, open it up to the commissioners to have an open debate discussion with regards to the merits of, one, should the land be considered for park usage, and two, to consider the donation gift that Mr. Johnson has provided as to whether the city should accept that for naming rights. Please, go ahead.
I've got some thoughts. First of all, I took a drive over there on Saturday. It's a beautiful, wide open space. I've passed it a million times and never even noticed it before, but once I got to stop by the side of the road, I was like, this is nice. Short walk over to Los Verdes Park, short walk to the Heritage Museum, short walk to the Botanical Garden. Fox Point Farms is, like you said, is up the road. I noticed the parking along Los Verdes Drive there. And I guess it was declared surplus property in 2023. I'm not sure what, maybe we could talk about what that means or why that happened. But I noticed also the meeting next door, the Affordable Housing Task Force, this is the top of their list for redevelopment. This is their number one choice, according to their agenda tonight. So, but I guess my thoughts would be, like you said, the west side parcel, according to the Affordable Housing Task Force, the west side of the parcel is really wetlands. And would require the Coastal Commission to touch that area because there's wetlands that go through there. There's kind of a stream and an area. And like you said, that's probably, I don't know about a parking lot there. Maybe it might just be nice to leave it alone. The east side parcel, I mean, it's, you know, like I said, a hiking trail would be fantastic. Also, I looked around and I go to the Powerline Dog Park quite a bit, and they have, and the city put together those big slabs, those tree slabs for benches, maybe something like that. I thought would be really really appropriate to leave that area, make a couple of trails through there, and kind of leave it the way it is. It's just really nice, and those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening.
Any thoughts with regards to parking, since there's no parking along that area?
Clearly, parking is going to be a problem with all that new development. I don't know if we could, I don't know how to build our way out of that. Again, I'm not proposing a design, I'm just observing what we saw the other day. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts, please?
I agree with everything he said. I also want to point out that I believe it's just really close to the trail system that goes around Encinitas Ranch and the golf course. And I've walked that trail many times with various neighbors and family, gone to the children's park. I think it's a really perfect sort of addition to what's already part of our trail system there. And I agree with all the good reasons to recommend that this be reserved or identified as park space. And it sounds like it's already in a position where it doesn't need to be turned into like lawns that need to be overwatered and everything. Just a few trails and a place for people to go and hang out and have lunch or do their walking. And I've also noticed I've watched the whole Fox Point Farms get built, And I don't know if that's ever going to change, and that is concerning that the valet drivers are running across either Lucadia Boulevard, yeah, I think it is Lucadia, to go park cars all the way down that street. And if there are two developments going in, the other question I would have is whether this is something that was negotiated with the developers as to how much parking they're going to make sure is available for those developments, and whether they needed to contribute any finances to preserving open spaces to the amount of development that they're putting in. And then lastly, I'll say, based on what we've heard today from the speakers and the potential conflicts that were, not of our design, but we have the mayor's debate tonight, another task force meeting going on that is related to this, that I would suggest that we carry over an agenda item and ask for some questions to be answered, in particular the one regarding why this wasn't identified, or what is the word, the surplus, yeah. And maybe some other information might be able to be made available so that we can have a better discussion. That's it.
We can certainly vote on a continuance after we're done with the discussion. Thank you for your input. Would staff be able to provide any type of feedback with regards to what parks are in the local area and approximately how people in that area would access those parks?
The closest few parks to this parcel are Las Verdes, as we mentioned. To the east is Leo Mullen, and so you'd go up Quail Gardens to Lucadia and down Encinitas Boulevard. And then to the southwest would be the Ecke Sports Park.
Thank you. And then the amenities at those in general, what are we looking at?
Leo Mullen has soccer and baseball, a nice playground. Ecke Sports Park has a number of baseball sports fields that we use for multi-purpose as well. And there's a concession facility and a running track.
And Las Verdes?
Las Verdes is primarily the playground, some picnic tables, and walking areas. And much of that park is actually, when you look at it on the map, a detention basin, which is on the other side of the street.
So I hear a lot of active use in parks that are near that location. So there are parks nearby that have sports fields, which would, for me, think that a more passive park might be more beneficial if we were looking to add an additional park in that area, considering that we do seem to have a lot of active parks in the nearby area. When we consider things that we might want with regards to a reason why we would want a continuance, I'd like to just specifically understand what the commission's thoughts might be on that. So one is there has been some interest with regards to the question of it being surplus land and whether that's even relevant to the discussion. Would staff be prepared at this point at all to address that question, or would it be more appropriate to come back to us?
No, not at this time. And just to kind of redirect back to the council's direction, which is really to review and evaluate Mr. Johnson's offer, as well as the specific requests, and whether or not naming rights should apply.
So, again, going back to that, and thank you, Manager Norgard, for providing a little bit of clarity. So it's really a two-pronged question. So the first question to us as a Parks and Rec Commission is, do we think that that land would be suitable for a park to be placed on it? There are obviously other uses that the city is currently considering for that, affordable housing being the primary one. In the past, they've considered using it for an operations depot, other miscellaneous things. So I would say our first section that we would need to think about is, do we think that that land would be suitable for a park? And any thoughts with regards to that particular question?
This is the Parks and Rec Commission, and I'm on this commission because I'm an advocate for open space and parks. And so I would like to see it be a park. We are having a park tour coming up soon. I'm wondering if we can maybe include that, maybe as a drive-by or as a group, where we could look at like we did with the skate bowl. I think that would be a great thing for all of us to be there together and make comments. The other thing is the criteria for naming a park. And we didn't really discuss that, but it's right here, and there's just like 6 bullet points: historical relevance or geographical location, geological features, community identity, significant financial contribution, or degree of community support. I just wanted to put that out there for, point of interest.
Thank you.
That's my comment. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll add, if that is what's being asked of today, I have enough information based on what was provided to us prior to this meeting in our agenda and the packets to say I would be all for recommending to the city council that it be reserved to start the studies to make it open space and a park. But the naming rights thing, I don't know enough about. It doesn't seem like it's violating anything.
Let's do the naming rights as perhaps the second half of it,
Yeah,
and then
right.
we'll raise that. So the first half, let's kind of just discuss whether we think that should be viable for that land usage. I would ask staff, based upon your initial understanding of that park and what's out there, is there any major issues with regards to us using it as parkland? It didn't have nuclear material on it or anything like that?
Again, I haven't done due diligence on this property, so I don't want to go on record for saying that there is no nuclear material there, not having known the development of that area. I think, what you see is what you get in terms of the council's direction.
Go ahead, Commissioner Evers.
Yes, also an advocate for parks, but I think it would be helpful to have some more historical information, environmental impact information, and then also what our fellow commissioners are reviewing for the housing piece before making a decision.
And my understanding is that the Affordable Housing Task Force will wrap up in November with regards to their recommendations that will then go to City Council. So it's not that we need to necessarily make any decision at this point with regards to what we would want to recommend to City Council from our Parks and Recreation Commission. So don't feel like we need to make a decision tonight unless we all feel strongly or based upon the outcome of a vote that we can bring forward, that we can move forward in that direction. Vice Chair Hansen, I think you had a comment that you wanted to make?
No, not at this point, but I've got a lot of comments down the road.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Ritter. I also wanted to say, yes, I'm definitely an advocate for this being a park. Also, maybe looking at possible trails connectivity in this area and how we are kind of directed towards that is a good.
I think that's a very good point, and I thank you for serving on that Trails ad hoc, so you certainly would know that even more than some of us on the commission. But the Encinitas Ranch area has a pretty extensive trail system. Las Verdes, from my understanding, actually is a park that's maintained through, not through city funds, but actually through the HOA. There, if you could maybe speak to that a little clearer.
Sure, the city maintains it, and that is funded by what we call Encinitas Lighting and Landscape District. So it's a special fund levied by that neighborhood. So it is separate from general fund.
Thank you. And perhaps those that have visited the park, and I haven't had an opportunity to, or the area in question, does there seem to be an easy way to perhaps consider connecting those trails versus along with this parcel? Or would it be involved in like walking on sidewalks for a bit and then you can kind of join in? Is that what we're looking at?
Well, I think the gentleman mentioned that there's another trail situation further west. On the property west of that, there's a couple of trails. And then there's a trail that goes right along Quail Gardens, right? Well, do we have a naming policy for trails? Is that a thing that could be a possibility here?
Well, I think in the past, trails have been, the suggestions have been requested from the public, and then I think it actually has been something the Parks and Rec Commission has taken on with regards to finalizing the names. But we haven't received financial donations specifically to name a trail based upon receiving a donation. And I know you have hands up in the audience, and I certainly appreciate that you have questions, but technically at this point, we can't really do open forum to discuss things.
You asked for a frame of reference, so I want to give you a frame of reference. It's in the general plan as parkland. If you Google it right now, it's parkland.
Thank you.
In the general plan. Additionally, I can tell you about and why this, because I've been to all of these city council meetings, I'd love to give you some of the information, including votes, on where this, how this has changed. So I can tell you.
Okay. I appreciate your comment, but again, at this point, if we can just refrain, at this juncture of the meeting, it's really a discussion among the commissioners. We certainly appreciate the 3 minutes that you've provided. And you're certainly welcome to provide information to our liaison, the secretary, which is Operations Manager Norgard, and he can certainly disseminate it to the commission. So I think in general, I feel like the commission seems to feel like the use of the lot would be good for park space. I think the next question, which is perhaps a harder question, is the naming qualifications and whether we would name it based upon receiving a financial donation from Mr. Johnson and perhaps other neighbors. So Commissioner Quinn did kind of talk a little bit about the criteria for naming. As we look at those, historical relevance, I would say that's a no. Geographic location is a no. Geological features, again, it doesn't apply. A lot of these are kind of relative to how we've named other parks like Cottonwood Creek, for instance. Community identity, it's a single individual, so I don't really feel like that's in alignment. There's a financial contribution, and I think the big question here is the word significant. And we certainly appreciate your offer for $100,000, and it's quite generous. And it's one of those things that, on balance, we have, as a city, we have to decide how important it is to have private donations help support city functions, but at the same time, kind of giving up a little bit of control. And some of that is, a specific name, or that I want it to be a passive park versus an active park. So these are big philosophical questions with regards to what is a significant financial contribution to warrant that. And the last criteria is degree of community support. And I know in the city council meeting that you had quite a few people who had expressed interest and have voiced their interest in having a park there, and then also for some of them naming it as well after your wife. And we're a population of 62,000 people. So it is one of those things where how do you measure that degree of community support? So those are kind of the criteria that, based upon city policy, that we would be looking at with regards to whether it seems appropriate to consider the donation. I would open it up to the commission to provide any thoughts with regards to those criteria and how you feel like this particular instance might support it.
I've got one comment, and it only goes back to consistency, because I think we did have the skateboard bowl folks in here a couple of weeks back, and they said, oh, we could raise money by selling this, but they were more in kind of fundraising mode to sell the name. It was way more commercial. It was way more of a commercial approach than Mr. Johnson here. They said, well, we can get this funded if we just allow somebody to name this. And I don't think, no. I think we just need to treat people consistently, because I don't think we consider that too much. So, but then that was again not a solid proposal anyway.
And I appreciate your comment on that and the comparison. I did mention at the time that it has been city policy not to accept funds for naming rights, with the Encinitas Library being the more recent situation where I think it was over $1 million that they basically refused to accept. So this would be a new precedent, and I think that is a big question. I think the other big question, too, is how does it affect public policy? So if we have a private individual come forward who has made a very generous offer, but his interest is from the standpoint of limiting development, which may or may not be the interest of the city government. So the question then becomes, do we accept money and make a policy change because of that, or do we allow the policy to be driven by what the leadership plans to do? So the thing that we have here is we have one agency that's looking at affordable housing for that property. We have another one that is looking at parkland, and of course, as park commissioners, we love parkland, but I also understand that affordable housing is important as well. So it's difficult. And then when you add the money component to it, it makes it even cloudier. So I would say, with regards to how this is relevant to the naming rights, is I feel like if we were to move forward as a city for using that lot for a park, we should move forward with it as a park. I'm a little concerned, particularly in that particular instance, that if we accept money and we decide to make that parkland and not affordable housing, then I feel like there's an image issue with regards to the fact that it looks like we're accepting money in exchange for a park rather than doing affordable housing. So it is a very difficult situation. It is one of those things where the city council is going to make that determination, but they are looking to us with regards to guidance as we explore the possibilities with regards to how this can be interpreted by our citizens.
I get what you're saying, and to the extent that of my understanding of what you're saying, I don't think my view of recommending to the city council that this parcel be explored to become a park should be reliant on this generous offer that's being made. I think they are and should be mutually exclusive. And I feel that there is a process for naming and requesting for city amenities to be renamed. And I don't feel like we should have to make that decision, and I wouldn't feel comfortable having a up and down yes or no answer to that right now. We don't have enough information, in my opinion, for that. And I wouldn't change my vote at all if the offer was taken off the table as far as recommending to the city that it should be explored to be turned into a park.
Thank you. Commissioner Quinn?
I'm going to, for a point of information, maybe staff can help enlighten. There's a trail in Levenhain, and it has a name of a bridge. I think it's Ellen's Bridge.
Ellie's Bridge.
Go ahead.
Ellie's Bridge.
Thank you. So what's the history on naming that bridge?
My understanding is that the Encinitas Trails Coalition donated funds to help construct that bridge. That bridge is named, was named, I believe, through the process with which the other trails were named, where it was opened up to the community. The Trails Coalition and other groups weighed in on preferred names for all of the trails, and then the Parks and Rec Commission ultimately made a recommendation to adopt those names, and that is separate from the naming rights policy.
I would also say, just in conjunction with that, that if we accept the generous donation, that we basically take it off the table for the public to provide input for what they would like to call that park if it did indeed become a park. With regards to the exclusions in Part D of that document that was on the agenda regarding names that would not be considered, I didn't really see anything specifically that said, no, we couldn't do it based upon the way that it was written. The closest thing would be item number 9, which is recognize the birth, marriage, or anniversary of specific individuals. In this particular instance, it would be kind of a memorial to the death of your wife. So it doesn't say that in there, though, but I would just say it would be somewhat similar in that specific instance. But other than that, I don't see where it is specifically excluded based upon what you're requesting. Does the commissioners have any comments that might offer a different direction on that? And is there any other thoughts with regards to whether the city should consider naming the park for a financial contribution, first of all, and then maybe second, whether the financial contribution is $100,000, for instance, if we're trying to measure significant contributions of $100,000 versus a park that might cost, $3 to 4 or 5 million once it's all said and done. It certainly helps, but it certainly isn't a major and even though I very much appreciate the donation, it's not perhaps fits the definition of significant relative to the price. Manager or Commissioner Quinn?
Yeah, I have a question, and it might be for staff. If Mr. Johnson was to write a check right now to the city of Encinitas for $100,000, would that go into the general fund, or would it go to the park itself.
I'm giving this as my best answer. So just, and we've had discussions of other donations as in the last week, so where this comes from. There's multiple ways for a donation to be taken, so I'm giving you an answer that's either way. You could donate to the general fund, meaning the support overall, say Park and Recreation, and you could donate, and that money could go through the general fund. There's also the process of donating to something specific. So the money may sit in general fund by title, but have a specific purpose. Does that answer the question? I know I did a very good job politically of going both ways on the answer.
Yes, thank you, sort of. I mean, it's one big pot, right? But, you know.
It's earmarked.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just be clear. Reading this council policy, naming this park after Mr. Johnson's wife would not violate this policy. Now, it hasn't been done before, but just reading it, there would be nothing that would prevent us from doing so. I just want to, and that would be our opinion to the city council, because this policy exists and we just need to follow it. Am I misreading this?
I would say that under Section D exclusions, I don't find that there's anything that's specifically excluding it. I would say that when you take a look at the process and procedures, Section C, and you look under criteria for naming, the question is whether it fits any of those criterias. And then in particular, the wording significant financial contribution is it. I kind of feel like
Significant would be, is a subjective term.
is a subjective term.
But yeah, okay, thank you.
And I also feel like it's subjective relative to the project. So for instance, if he's giving $100,000 for something that cost $100,000 to make or provide to the community, that's a bit different than providing $100,000 for something that might cost $5 million to the community.
Correct.
So
Right.
I think when we think of the word significant, that's the way I might shape it.
Well, I don't know if that was, right, I don't know if I want to vet that, but it certainly wouldn't violate this policy that we're looking at right here. And somebody at a higher pay grade than I would determine what significant is.
And I do, and I hear what you're saying, and I would also say that as an advisory commission to the city council, they're also looking for potential input. So while it's a difficult decision, significant contribution is probably something that we should consider.
But without specifics of a design, what can you compare it against?
I guess the only thing you can compare it against is what staff suggest it might cost to make it a reality. So we're coming up on 7 o'clock, and we still have our work plan to get through. If it is agreeable, I'd like to make a motion that we do a continuance. I feel like I'd like to hear more input from the community. I think that there's still some additional discussion that should be had by the commission, and then perhaps kind of taking a recess from this particular issue, give us a little time to digest it, might be worthwhile. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Chair Ritter,
Yes.
for an extension of time, you do have to specify the amount of time.
I'm actually doing continuance into next meeting for this. Thank you.
Gotcha. Then I will go ahead and take a vote.
Chair Ritter, one point of order.
Please, go ahead.
I don't have a calendar in front of me, and maybe for the people in the audience, it would give you the date of when that next meeting is.
It would be, our next scheduled Parks and Recreation Commission meeting is October 15th. However, I was going to put a motion to the commission to consider changing the date to Monday, October, what was that, 23rd?
Federal holiday.
21st, that's what I meant. Monday, October 21st. We were actually going to vote on that later on after the work plan. We also need to confirm, Mr. Fisher needs to confirm if the council chambers would be available then.
An alternate path maybe to have a special meeting specifically for this on that date or another date that the commission determines.
That would be another good opportunity.
Is there a motion? Did you just make a motion to change the meeting to 21st?
I did make a motion to change the meeting to the October 21st. It would be a regular meeting rather than a special meeting. We would cancel the October 15th meeting.
I'll second that.
And does staff have any comments or concerns?
My apologies, could you repeat the question?
Do you have any questions or concerns regarding moving the date, assuming that we can get council chambers for that date?
No concerns.
Okay, so it would be the same time, 5:30 p.m. on Monday, October 21st. And Manager Norgard will go ahead and add it to our agenda. And again, because it will be a presentation, we can, and a further discussion, so as a continuance, we can certainly welcome public comment. All right, great, thank you. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up that particular item on the agenda. I certainly, first of all, appreciate those people that have come to voice their opinion. Mr. Johnson, thank you very much for your generous donation opportunity. So we appreciate you coming forward to the city. And hopefully we'll see you and your supporters and any other members of the public on the 21st to discuss it further.
Thank you.
All right, getting back to our agenda.
Was there a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, there was a motion that came up. It got second, but do you need to?
So the motion that was recorded was to push this agenda item 8B back to October 21st, and there'll be a special meeting, correct?
That will be our regular meeting.
Regular meeting, okay.
We haven't voted yet, so let's make sure that we get that done. So this is on the work plan. Do you have to like write a special text for the motion?
I'll do that again.
Either that, or perhaps we can just do a voice count. So the motion text that I see is consider the creation naming of a park.
Sorry, I'll do a manual vote.
Okay.
We're having some issues
So
here.
just to recap, the motion that we're currently voting on is to move the October 15th regular commission meeting. So we'll cancel that meeting and we'll move it to October 21st at 5:30 PM in council chambers. That will also be based upon confirming availability. Currently, the Public Health and Human
Public health.
Safety Commission has the room on hold from 3 to 6, so they also have several days around then that they have it on hold. So there's a good chance that we'll be able to start our meeting at 5:30, but we'll confirm. So that's the motion, and just as a recap, who seconded that? That was Commissioner Quinn. And at this point, let's just do a vote, starting with Commissioner Van Houwer. If you wanted us to go ahead and start.
I vote yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yay.
Okay, the motion passes.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Getting all this hard stuff out of the way. Now we can do the easy stuff, the work plan, right? All right. So going back to the agenda. (8C) Parks and Recreation Commission Plan. And if we could go ahead and have the work plan up on the screen, great, thank you. So in the interest of time, we'll kind of go through some of the ones that perhaps we don't have a lot to talk about. The first one is we do have a park tour coming up on September 24th at 3 p.m. We just wanted to get a final tally of who will be attending. Is there anyone that would be unable to attend that park tour meeting? So we have one absence that most likely will happen. Okay, great, thank you. At 3 p.m. Okay. We'll have plenty then for quorum, so that's perfectly fine. I don't think there's really much more to talk about on that. Regarding the city-sponsored events, we do have the holiday parade coming up. I know that now that it's past September 9th or whatever that date was, we can now work on our holiday parade application. So the ad hoc that's working on the holiday parade listed there, you might want to reach out to Manager.
You can reach out to me.
Okay, Norgard, get the application so that we can get our parade float or our parade application in. Does the ad hoc have anything else that they want to discuss at this time regarding that? All right, so let's move on to guest speakers. Manager Norgard and I had a discussion. Originally, we had planned to have BCK programs have their students present to us today based upon the priority of what City Council has directed to us and what we anticipated the length of time would be. We asked BCK if they would move their presentation until November. So we're looking at them coming in November. They're just double checking with the parents to make sure that that would work out for them. At that point, we will be dark in December, so then we really only need to look for guest speakers maybe in January and February. Anything from the ad hocs regarding the volunteer promotion and recruitments? All right, moving on to the adult fitness equipment. Manager Norgard did present to me a option number 5 for the Glen Park fitness court, and I provided some feedback, which he's then gone ahead and forwarded on to the program manager. We're hoping to have CPP meetings set up for the various parks, and I assume that right now we're looking at just Wiro and Orpheus, or would we also consider Glen Park as well?
One for each, Glen, Wyro, and Orpheus.
Okay, so basically what will happen is that will be an opportunity, the public will be noticed, they will give them an opportunity to come take a look at the playground equipment, the adult fitness equipment, and receive a presentation and provide any type of comments that they have on what they see. And then based upon that information, we'll kind of continue the process. Other than that, there's really nothing else to report. Manager Norgard, you didn't have anything else? Okay, great. On number 6, tennis court and pickleball court usage, I would like to have Manager Norgard for the commission's purpose for the full commission, just to be aware of some signage challenges that we've had recently. So if perhaps you might tell us more about that.
Thank you, Chair Ritter. We've had a number of folks write in to staff, myself, to talk about some conflicts that have arisen recently at Cottonwood Creek for the court sharing. A number of tennis players have been on the tennis priority side, playing tennis, and we have signage up at Cottonwood that describes the court sharing rules. And one of the rules is that if a group is playing, let me just back up. Some of the rules have been interpreted incorrectly due to what some folks have said is vagueness. And the left-hand court is tennis priority, and we have a rule that if a group is playing for an hour, another group can ask them to leave. And some pickleball folks have asked the tennis players to leave after an hour from the tennis priority court. That's not the intent of that rule. The intent of that rule is the tennis side is the tennis side, and if another tennis group comes and the first tennis group has been playing for an hour, they can ask them to leave. So tennis players have been playing tennis, pickleball players have asked them to leave. Part of our court sharing rules say that if the priority group shows up when somebody else is playing, the other folks get 10 minutes to vacate. So, for example, if there are pickleball players playing on the tennis priority side and tennis players show up, the pickleballers have about 10 minutes to finish up their game and get out. So that's created quite a bit of conflict, and it's become pretty heated over there, and we've had a number of folks reach out to us to ask for some clarifications. So we have revised some signage. We've sent that to the sign manufacturer, and we're going to get those up as soon as we get them back. And so I think this just goes back to what the ad hoc's looking at. We've done really well over the years with some court sharing. We're looking at some rule changes overall. And I think this is all part of that bigger discussion, including the mayor, council's direction to take a look at the court at Moonlight. And I think it wraps in well to the Encinitas Community Park amenities assessment as well.
Thank you very much. We have an ambassador there at Cottonwood, is that correct?
We have a park host. Their role is not to adjudicate court uses. They're our eyes and ears and liaison with the sheriff, and they're really there for after-hour support.
Okay, thank you. I would just want to reiterate the importance to the ad hoc that is on this particular work plan item, that one of the most important things that we should always do is anything that's city council directed is something that we should prioritize. So I think it's very important for us to definitely do the work with regards to the concept of the Moonlight Beach facility closing, and then what we would do from there. So if that ad hoc would maybe prioritize that even more, I think that would be a good thing to do. I would like to give some direction to City Council shortly, and maybe ideally by the end of the year or by January at the most, to provide some feedback based upon your findings.
Commissioner, I think my understanding from the last ad hoc meeting was there was some other piece, maybe staff can clarify that. We're waiting on like a couple of research or things that the staff had already started on, and that the ad hoc committee was going to do more outreach to just discuss and get comments from people who use the facilities. And if I'm wrong about that, correct me, but I thought we kind of had set a plan to, maybe like the November meeting or something, to have some type of, not presentation, but like, you know, here's a discussion and here's where we kind of landed on it. Is that accurate to what discussion we had?
And staff, did you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, and so just as a reminder, there's really two parts. The first part is what we had already talked about with, going through some rules. And I can get you some information about what the current rules are and what is in place at the other areas. And then the other part about it is, the council's direction for removing that court. One of the big pieces was, we wanted to get the amenities assessment out to you guys before we were able to really move forward with that, because it plays into where do we have facilities in the city. Aside from that, I think that we are able to continue to move into the next steps and, start talking to folks out at the courts. And I'm happy to meet with the ad hoc, as soon as possible to answer any questions, provide direction, help out in any ways that we can. It's something we need, and I think it's one of the more exciting items on our work plan.
Thank you. Any other comments on that? Okay.
Yeah, I've got a comment. I think so much of what we recommend has a contingency on what they do with Moonlight. They're kind of self-determinative, if you will. And then wrapping in the pickleball courts we're adding would affect that decision, but those are things that are far down the road. Just a consideration for when we do present.
And I'd like to be considerate of that, and also understanding the time scale with which city government can work. I think that there might be a tiered approach that considers rules for the current conditions and what future conditions may look like. So if, for example, we take the current condition, let's make a decision on what we would like the rules to be, if we want group play or open play. And then maybe look at council's request for whether or not Moonlight Court should stay or go, which I think leads directly into where you're going is if we take Moonlight out, and again, I'm neutral, I'm not advocating for any position, this is just an example. If Moonlight were to be removed and ECP were to move forward, then that probably looks a lot different for what the courts look like, and maybe there's less court sharing or no court sharing. And similarly, if Moonlight stays, is it a court share? Is it a tennis court? Things like that. And so I think it would help us to look at it through that framework of short-term, medium, and kind of built-out condition, because we don't know, where budget would be to remove the Moonlight Court, and where budget would be to build ECP. And if council chose to fund those things in the short term, it would still be several years until we got to that built-out condition. So
I appreciate that, and I think current conditions will be the main object we're considering.
All right, moving on to item number 7, the pop-up parks. I know we do have a movie in the park event coming up. I am not going to steal your thunder this time, so I am not going to say the date. And that might be an opportunity for the ad hoc or other commission members to participate in a little pop-up park where we could bring some cornhole, or also just kind of assist staff in that event. So that will be, again, at Glen Park in Cardiff. Moving on to Parks Master Plan, does the ad hoc have anything to speak about the trails? Please.
Thanks, Chair Ritter. With the ad hoc met with Manager Norgard for some staff direction. He suggested to reach out to the Trails Coalition. So we're going to give them some potential meeting dates to get their input for the outer spatial app content.
Fantastic. Any other comments from any other members on the ad hoc? Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Is there any data on how much outer spatial is being used?
I'm sure we have it, I just don't have it at
Okay.
this time. I can get that and bring it back.
If it's not too much work.
Moving on to item number 9, the Harbor Seaside Parkway development. I did just want to take an opportunity to read a letter that I got from the Cardiff by the Sea Foundation. It's dated September 17th. The Cardiff by the Sea Foundation would like to recognize and give our sincere thanks to the City of Encinitas Parks and Recreation Commission, Vice Chair Member Brad Hansen, for his valuable time and expertise in helping our nonprofit foundation. His vast knowledge on the process of filing the precise state and federal tax and charitable foundation documents has helped get our organization back into good standing. Without his help, we would not be able to function as a 501c3, and for this, we are very thankful. Sincerely, Cardiff by the Sea Foundation. So, thank you very much, Commissioner Hansen. Leading on to number 10, support of Friends of Encinitas Parks. Vice Chair, did you want to mention that? And then I can fill in any blanks.
You know, I'm almost thinking you should probably take this so I don't say too much. But we had a meeting today, and we've added some board members, and we have some energy. And I can really see this taking off before the end of the year. Names are coming and, you know, trademark, or not trademarks, but mission statements. We've got the recommendations, and we're moving. Like today was a giant step forward. And I was lucky to get Chairman Ritter on the board. And we've added 3 others that complement each other. So I think it's really, really going to be better than I had hoped. So anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I would just say that the Vice Chair was instrumental in keeping the organization on life support until we could get some help. And he obviously did not only all the work that he did for the Cardiff by the Sea Foundation, but he also did it for this particular nonprofit as well, which is a huge commitment, and certainly appreciate his effort. But I'm excited to be on the board with him. I second your thoughts with regards to the fact that I feel like we have some very passionate go-getters that have joined our board, which is exactly what we need because there's a lot of work to be done. So I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about sharing with you our new name and our hopefully a new website soon. So all these things will be forthcoming in the future, but I just want to let you know that things are happening. Moving on to item number 11, which is our final item. It's with regards to updating our bylaws for the Parks and Rec Commission, and our commission, or our ad hoc rather, recently met as well. And we have a great start. I feel like the ad hoc was very involved in the process, provided some great ideas. I would say we're probably halfway through the document where we've kind of added things that we want, and we're going to kind of work on the last half. I think we have a few questions that we'll probably bounce off of staff just to get a little bit of direction on that last half. But I'm feeling good about it, and I certainly appreciate my fellow ad hoc members because they came to the meeting prepared to discuss and to move forward. So thank you. Commissioner Quinn or Capiello, do you have any additional comments on that? Okay, fantastic. All right, so let's move on to Parks Operations Report. Manager Norgard.
Thank you, Chair Ritter. Just a couple things as we're getting down to the end of the meeting here tonight. I wanted to provide an update that we released an RFP, request for proposals, for native demonstration garden design. That closed. Staff have reviewed proposals, and we're going to take a agenda report to council on October 9th to award that contract. Haven't contacted all of the firms yet, so I'm not going to release any information as to who that is, but that will be part of the item as it becomes agendized. So we're excited about that one. The native demonstration garden is planned to be at Leucadia Oaks, and we have some schedule that I'll share after that city council meeting in terms of like when we're going to get out and do public comment and talk to other folks. So that one's going to start working here pretty soon, and we're excited about that one. I will also be issuing an RFP for new Habitat Stewardship Program work. So currently, the San Diego Botanic Garden is our contractor for that work. We've reached the end of our contract with them in terms of the number of amendments that we can execute. So we're going to release that out for competition. The Botanic Garden and all other contractors are welcome to bid on that. I'm hoping to get that out by the end of September or very early October, and that will kick off the next phase of work, which will be at Saxony Road. That concludes my park operations report.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the operations report? All right, if we could have recreation services, please.
Manager Hamer here. We are planning the movie in the park at Glen Park for Saturday, October 19th. There are a lot of details I want to share, though. Cardiff 101's working with us. We'll have a costume contest this year. Anyone who was there, all the kiddos wore their costumes. So we're going to build on that. The movie is Scoob, so it's Scooby-Doo. So we're going to have Scooby characters roaming around as well, and a mystery maze instead of a spooky house. So kids will have to have clues and figure things out. So we're really hoping for kind of a fun, engaging event beforehand. And if you're interested in doing any sort of feature or pop-up park, just contact me and we'll make sure we save the space and get the supplies. So that is our event next month. And for the arts team, they have the art night that they are planning for. That'll be November 16th, 5:30 to 8:30. And of course, both of these events, I'll be building in volunteer opportunities in Volgistics, so that email should be coming out soon. And if you're not in Volgistics as an official volunteer, we'll also ask commissioners if they're interested in being involved. You don't have to be in Volgistics. So thank you for volunteering your time, energy, and passion for Parks and Recreation.
And thank you for indulging us in a very long meeting to where you only had 4 minutes to speak. All right, at this time, just wanted to check, are there any commission member initiated agenda items that would like to be added? That would be a no. And then the future agenda items added by commission members, the only thing I would say at this point is we have the continuance going on regarding L7. At this point, if we could just quickly go through a roundtable, if there's anything that you'd like to say, please go ahead. We'll start at the end.
Thanks, Chair Ritter. I would like to say on the recreation tour, I finally got to see the lights in the community center in the gymnasium. They were really awesome. We could tell the difference between the last tour and this one, so that was nice. And I also plan to attend movie night. Wherever needed, I'll be there.
Thank you. Commissioner Quinn?
In essence of time, I don't have anything to really add, but I do want to get my calendar straight. The city council meeting for Surfers Point, again, is...
I think it's September 25th.
It is still September 25th, okay. I know there was a hold the date, but okay, thank you. And it's at what time?
4 p.m.
4 p.m., thank you very much. That's it.
And thank you for the reminder. It's good that we took a look at that again. Commissioner Evers?
Nothing for me tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Cormorant?
Nothing, thanks.
Commissioner Capiello?
This is the first more exciting meeting for discussions. And I do appreciate how Chair Ritter conducts things and makes things move along, and it's keeping us on time, so I'll stop now.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
In the spirit of moving things forward, I'll keep my mouth shut, other than saying thank you for doing a great job. You guys are great to work with. I really enjoy it. And we'll keep moving on.
All right, and I'll just wrap up here in the last 40 seconds, we'll say. I wanted to, first of all, thank the Commission for participating in an open discussion about a very difficult topic, whether it's the naming rights or trying to express interest with regards to a study that you've just recently seen. So I appreciate you taking some thought and sharing your viewpoints on it, because I really want us to continue to act as our mission, and that is to be an advisory to City Council. So I think this really is helpful. So thank you for participating in that. And with that, I adjourn the meeting at 7:30.